What is going on, guys? It is Adam aka Marf, and tonight's show is going to be packed. We have everything that has just transpired in the last 24 hours. Of course, there is a ton happening all over the world. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, just remember everything we are about to show you here is then bibliographed over on our website, marfooglenews.com. Now, if you go over there, it's very easy to sign up for our email alerts. This list, we can actually get information directly to you, and if the event of anything happens to us, we'll be able to find you again and let you know where we are. Also, it is all organized by thumbnail, so you'll look for tonight's thumbnail on marfooglenews.com, and that you'll see that we have every single picture, tweet, video, article, document that we are going to show you here today, including the documents from the earlier Marfoogle News video about the Russian health ministry. That will all be over on the website. Again, once you click Vulnerable Planning Ahead, that will bring you to every single article, tweet, video, picture. Now, on top of this, you have a whole nother show. Once you hit the yellow bar down below, that is web-only content. That's the stuff that's too hot for TV or too far to one direction for us to cover, at least on this platform. Now, once you get to the end of that, normally you will see extra information there as well. At the very end of the show, we will have an EMP contest information section, so make sure to stick around till the end, and Dex will tell you how to enter to win. Also, if you want to support us, over on the right side is all of our affiliates, including EMP Shield and, of course, My Patriot Supply. When you support, a commission goes to us, and then, of course, you, most cases, get a discount. So it helps both everybody, and again, we are independent, so we depend on things like that to keep us running. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on today, and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So we do have a special guest tonight. We will have him come in after just a little bit. Also, we're going to talk about a lot of the things that have been going on. Obviously, it has gotten extremely insane. And whether you believe it or not, the major moves are being made as far as the world is turned upside down right now over Ukraine. Some believe that it is not as big of a deal as they say it is, or something is happening. I would ask those people, what do you think is happening then? As far as, like, what do you think the end-all, be-all goal is? Is it for Russia to just take Ukraine outright? Were they promised it in your theory? Again, I don't think there's any wrong answers to this, because pretty much no civilian knows exactly what is happening right now. We can all take our guesses, and it seems pretty obvious. There's a lot of weird things out there. But again, we're not trying to tell you exactly what is happening, because we are with you. We're right along the side. All 5,000 people in chat and everybody that watches this, we're all on the same page here, and we do the work for you to make sure that we are bringing you every piece of information so we can all put the puzzle pieces together. All right, and then let's go right into it. Duped. President B, White House pled with China to stop Russia. Then China gave President B's own intel straight to Putin. Oh, man, that's a little slap in the face. Not the picture, but what they did. In hopes of securing assistance in deterring a Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Xi administration was reduced to providing China with military intelligence that Beijing in turn gave to Russia. U.S. officials learned in December that China had provided American intelligence on Russian military activity to Moscow. And it says that American officials believe that if any world leader could prove capable of convincing Russian President Vladimir Putin to rethink his invasion plans, it was President Xi Jinping. Russia and China have been strengthening their ties in recent years, and the Xi administration had sought to convince China that its international image would be damaged by a Russian invasion of Ukraine. I don't see how, because every single media outlet has not covered China whatsoever. It's like people just totally forgot that China was about to take Taiwan. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these days we're watching on every news channel that they're playing all these highlight reels and the videos, and then in the morning they go, "Oh yeah, by the way, China took Taiwan overnight." Wouldn't be surprised by that at all. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were then after Taiwan heading this way. Who knows? At this point, there is something definitely big right in front of us.
And Adam, this explains exactly why when President Xi was asked at his press conference, what do you think China's doing, or have you talked to China? Are they on board with this? He was like, no comment on them, because he probably knew that this has already gone down. This came out shortly after, right?
Yep, right after within hours, most people were reporting it. So, again, I think that they knew 100%. They are now no limits partners. And here's one thought. What if they did not want to be part of a certain order that all of the legacy kind of elites have put in together, and maybe they wanted to start their own? And maybe years ago they started doing more business with the rest of the world, undercutting. Of course, China had a strong power as far as they could manufacture for virtually every company around the world for cheaper than the U.S. That's why we don't manufacture things here. That's why we are so dependent on countries like China. China is technically an adversary, but yet we were dependent on them for stupid things like APIs, actual active pharmaceutical ingredients for life-saving, antibiotics and everything else under the sun. So what the hell were they doing? What previous presidents thought it was a good idea that, hey, let's have all of our antibiotics, the new modern age antibiotics that we have now that sets us apart from 150 years ago where everybody was dying at 30. Why would you have that made in your adversary's country? Since 1979, China essentially opened its doors to capitalism. And then if you look at the map of who used to do greater trade, we used to make cars. We used to make all sorts of things. We used to make steel. We used to make all these things and export it out to the world. We were a powerhouse of manufacturing. Once China started manufacturing, you saw all of these towns, cities, and whole states basically turn into ghost towns. And that was done because China was undercutting, and we've heard the rumors of course, kids working for literal peanuts, who knows? And they were able to do that when nobody else was. Also, there was this whole kind of idea that China is really backwards and they can't make anything good and they can't make quality stuff. Yet over the years, it's changed to where they are making all of the high quality stuff for all of these big, huge conglomerate companies. Almost everything in your home most likely has parts from China. And we're talking about extremely advanced factories at this point. And they instead, when they took all of their human resources and their people that were working for next to nothing, they used all the money they made from that and they upgraded their factories to robots. And the robots don't need any peanuts. They just do it. And then they pay somebody, peanuts to actually fix the machines. So they're really saving on it now because now they have a ton of extremely advanced companies that actually manufacture a lot of this stuff. And what do we have? Not a lot. As far as manufacturing, previous presidents screwed us up and really shut down a lot of stuff. So obviously they are working together. I have always had my theory, and again, if you want to share your theory, please tell me that they are working together and that some in the near future, we're going to see China take Taiwan. And I mean like near future. that this will all go down. It's showing the world that, we're not going to do anything. Who knows? We might even be high-fiving them behind closed doors, or even firing the damn things ourselves. I think China is then going to take Taiwan. And it's, of course, going to sway, and this is going to keep going for a very long time. People think that this is going to be negotiated and over in a week. Think about it. If this was manufactured, then they're going to keep it going for years. It could reset the entire system if they do what we think they're going to do. John Kavalchik, thank you for subscribing. Welcome to the Foogle fam. Just 2 minutes ago. 4 minutes ago, Pegalek, thank you so much for subscribing as well. And then Corrado, thank you as well for being the last one out last night. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. I appreciate everybody's opinion here. I just hope that you can be polite. Don Bali, thank you for your support. I appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. China leaves Russia's war off front pages as Xi stays silent. So they're not even talking about it. And everybody has a guess why, right? Chinese state media left Russia's invasion of Ukraine off their front pages Friday as Beijing weighed its response, even as the outbreak of conflict in Europe dominated conversations on Chinese social media. People's Daily, the mouthpiece for the Communist Party, put on the bottom page 3 on Friday, carrying a small piece on Foreign Minister Wang Yi's call with his Russian counterpart and criticism of the U.S. for, quote, hyping a military offensive that British Prime Minister Boris Johnson called the biggest conflict in Europe since 1945. So their opinion and what they are telling their country is that basically nothing is happening. I know that some of you actually agree with that. One thing that I would say is, even if you think that this is all manufactured and fake, I don't know why people think that the actual missiles that would be launched would be fake. A lot of you think that the missiles are launched from somebody else, and it may be a Fantastic Freddy. That may be true, but people think that a lot of these things that happen, that human life is taken into account. I don't know what is happening right here, but from what we see, it's a whole lot bigger. And then people think, oh, well, because CNN shows that it's true. No, I'm not watching CNN, and I'm not watching any of those. In fact, you need to go to German news outlets. You need to go to Indian news outlets. You need to go to Australian news outlets are better than most. You have Norwegian news. You have Sweden news. A lot of them are showing some of the craziest videos from their local actual social medias that are being put through in live. They're seeing a lot of this live. Those live streams are not findable on this platform and others. All you see, everybody that looks up Kiev finds that one video of the tower with the eagle statue on it. That's basically what you find. Or you find an old stream by EarthCam that isn't showing up anymore. If you check other places, this is going to be the first conflict where we're going to have TikTok videos of it. I mean, for gosh sakes, this is getting insane. Now there's a video going around of a tank running over a car, all sorts of things happening. Is that real? That is the question, again, that a lot of people have. I believe that this is a power move, like something massive is actually happening, but who is behind it? That's more my question. And then the U.S. could get hit with the most debilitating strike ever in a space war with China and Russia. It says the U.S. could be hit with the most debilitating, destructive strike ever in a potential space war with Russia, an expert warns. Relations between Moscow and Washington have plunged to new lows amid the Ukrainian crisis, and Russia's space agency warned that U.S. sanctions could, quote, destroy cooperation on the International Space Station. Moscow claimed Washington needs its cooperation to prevent the ISS from falling on the U.S. or Europe. Geopolitical and space expert Brandon J. Weichert told The Sun that Moscow has a decade to a 12-year advantage on the U.S. in the galaxies. He said that U.S. defenses are in no way fit to deal with challenges posed by Russia. Weichert warned, we are going to get hit very hard soon in space. It is going to be the most debilitating strike on America possibly ever, and we may not recover from it in a timely fashion. This could be how we lose our first conflict on Earth, is losing the first conflict in space. Weichert slammed the arrogant D.C. political class, claiming that they did not foresee any rival challenging Washington's dominance in the post-Cold War world. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, how do they know exactly that it would hit America or Europe, right? Unless they had control over its ability to, its trajectory and how they can adjust it. Maybe they do. Maybe they're the only ones that do. I don't know that that's the case. I don't know enough about how the treaty works between the two, but yeah. And how would you like to be stuck up there with, Americans and presumably some other countries there too, but also Russians in the middle of this sort of conflict between the countries? It's kind of got to be a little difficult to deal with.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot. Jim Cope, we're actually going to be covering that soon. He said Putin went into Ukraine to take out the U.S.-owned bio labs. Check out the cities hit on the maps. The President B's, the President C, and the Obamas, the deep state involved. Sickness made, they're blamed on China. Fact check me. We're actually going to be sharing a little bit of that later on. No, I don't blame you, but again, what I see is that people kind of say whatever the current thing is that's being said. A video comes out that gets 1 million views, 2 million views, and everybody, that's their current, I guess, their opinion, right? One thing though is, like, if really good somebody comes out with really good information or has a very good video on this kind of stuff, I see 10,000 people DM and they go over to that. Dex.
It's interesting, and I'm not saying it's true or false because I don't want to get involved in the opinion of it since it is so much speculation. But that whole story of biolabs in Ukraine is over a year old, and it's been talked about as Russian propaganda specifically against the Ukraine. So that, at least that's the one narrative that is part of that. So it's not trying to discredit it or credit it, but it's the whole point of all of this information, even what we get through, MSM, which, give that with a big grain of salt. But it just seems like all the information coming at us, we really have to take every bit of it with a grain of salt, because you just don't know which side is right and which side is wrong. And odds are it's almost like two people arguing. They have, one side of the story, another side of the story, and then in the middle is really the truth, right?
Well, and so going into this week, I mean, obviously this is the biggest time ever to be covering, like, normally we take Saturdays and Sundays off. I don't know how we would even do that. We're going to try to cover every step of the way on this. I knew that this is going to be so divisive and people are going to be turned off by my opinions. I would like to add in, though, and I don't try to brag about what we have, but we have a lot of military people in our groups. We also have a lot of higher ranking officials and retired people that have, found my show one way or another. And through 4 years of putting out shows basically almost 5 days a week, every week since, 2017, we have gotten a lot of great sources. And once we started really backing up and making sure that we had a bibliography and cross-referencing, we got better and better sources because people could trust that we weren't going to just put anything out there. We have offended other truthers because other truthers, essentially, they don't have the ability to do the bibliographies, or they don't do this, and people say, where's your sources, and they get pissed. Also, they may cover something, and they'll cover something that is just on the fly, like the internet talks about it for 24 hours. Somebody puts out some wild stuff, and then they go with it. And then, we may say something that goes against that. Then we're all of a sudden, everybody's mad at us. We want to make sure that, we're not doing anything personally against people to debunk stuff. We're looking at it and saying, hey, do we have proof? Do we have, evidence of this? And because the better we do, the better sources we are getting. And we're talking about, we already had good sources. Now we have great sources, and they have been right like 99% of the time. So if we can be ahead even just a couple days, that will help out everybody. So I just hope I hope everybody understands that. If you I don't get why people disagree with somebody and then just say, I'm done. Why shouldn't we work this out? If you know something I don't, fill me in, because I'm a human being. I make mistakes. But I also try to make sure that before we say something, we are. But now we're covering so much in such a short amount of time. We might cover something, and then tomorrow it says, we found out that this was bad information. We're covering it as it happens. What happens is people watch a replay 3 days later when it's been, debunked or something else, and then they comment 3 days later like, oh, you did this and you're so stupid. It's like, yeah, and we also corrected it the next day, but you didn't watch that part. So just keep in mind, there is so much happening right now. This is the most information we've ever seen come out about anything and everything, and nobody knows what to believe, and everybody is extremely torn. So I just ask for your patience. Who knows? In a week, maybe my mind will be changed and absolutely blown by everybody's opinions. And again, I'm not set in anything. What I am set in, though, is the stuff that I have thought about for 4 years, and the stuff that I thought was going to happen is now here, and now it's happening. Just like the CV, just like in 2019, we told you 4 or 5 months before it was going to happen, this is going to happen. What happens next? We believe that they have put the playbook out, and it's like a double game of rock, paper, scissors. You think they put that out because it's not going to happen? I think everything else has happened, and now they put that out, and it looks like that is what is their response. Russia's cyber attack response to sanctions. And that's what's being said by every country in the world. So why would they do that? What I want to know is, what is the motivation to do that? Why, other than being revengeful, why would, if somebody's in on it, why would they do that? Irish Rebel March Air Force Base was really busy today when I was over in that area. Irish Rebel, again, I think all of the bases are really busy right now. I'm glad. Thank you for letting us know. I believe you're not alone. Everybody has been DMing and messaging. It is insane. So everybody is up in the air. Now they're talking about turning air raid sirens on, all sorts of stuff. Is that to scare people? Maybe. But we're still going to cover it. Bex says, take care, good people. Hey, from Norway. Thank you. Hey, Bex. How are you doing? Wild Horses on the Move. Thanks for subscribing 4 minutes ago. 7 minutes ago. One like us. And Derek Belfour. Thank you for subscribing during the show. And let's see here. Yeah, there's a lot there. It says, he said, they thought there would never be any need for any kind of preventative or security measure because we thought we would always be dominant, and we thought no one would be crazy enough to challenge us. This is, of course, the opinion of an expert on this field. It says, well, here we are 30 years later, and you have Russia, China, and even showing us that was the wrong assumption. The expert feared that the U.S. has a 60% chance of being pushed out of space by its rivals completely. That's kind of a crazy thought. President B unleashed a package of sanctions against Moscow on Thursday after Putin's forces rolled into Ukraine, and an additional 7,000 troops will be sent to Eastern Europe to bolster NATO's defenses. That's on top of the 25,000 in different ones, and then the 90,000 or whatever was already there. One thing, though, so what he's saying is or questioning is a possible push out of space, like they pushed the U.S. out of space, like completely. Think about the operations China and Russia have been doing as far as their satellites to crunch or to hit our satellites out of the sky. Would that then make sense why we have something called Operation Starfall? Like if they knock our satellites out, then we would put up balloons with basically satellites into low Earth orbit to then keep our connections going. Is that why they are practicing with the underwater subs to cut the underwater lines between us and Europe? Don't know. Is that why they separated their internet? They passed a law within weeks. They just did it, and they go, hey, we're separate now. We can have an intranet. Are they planning on cutting us off from everything we know as the Internet of Things? Or is this a double, rock, paper, scissors game and everybody's a part of it and there's people infiltrated everywhere? We don't know. And then Russia facing more resistance than it expected in Ukraine, U.S. official. So I have seen this. This is the narrative on a lot of different news networks, no matter who it is. They're saying that basically there's all these heroes. What I do think is kind of sus is like the video of the islanders, right? The island guys saying, F the Russian ship. And then apparently they say they held good to their word and they just, blew the crap out of the island. I would think they would take them as POWs. It's not hard to take an island with a few guys on it. You would think they would do that rather than just, take out all the stuff. No, none of those news organizations have confirmed that they know. They're just like, well, we assume. Don't assume. Why would a news organization assume something? Why would you assume that they just, blew the island out of the water? They just assume that because the audio cuts out after they say "F that warship." We'll show you that here in a second. In fact, we do have that, right, Dex?
Yeah, we have that and a handful of the other hero-style stories that are being pushed out.
Yeah, I mean, and in fact, the first story after the next is basically this, piece saying that this actually helps morale and things like that. But we'll talk about that in a minute. And it says Russia is facing more resistance than Moscow anticipated in its invasion of Ukraine, including its advance on the capital, Kiev, and it appears to have lost some of its momentum, a senior U.S. defense official said on Friday. Russian missiles pounded Kiev on Friday. Families covered in shelters and authorities told residents to prepare Molotov cocktails to defend Ukraine's capital from the assault that the mayor said had already begun with saboteurs in the city. But the U.S. official who spoke on the condition of anonymity suggested a mixed picture for the Russian effort to press an offensive that Washington and Kiev say is aimed at the government and installing a puppet regime. It says, quote, "We do assess that there is greater resistance by the Ukrainians than the Russians expected." They're all saying that these guys are fighting like crazy and whatever else. If they went in with all 200,000 soldiers or 150 or even if it's 100,000, you wouldn't have a first day that has 300 perish. It would be a whole lot bigger than that. But if you go by what they're saying, that essentially because what the narrative now is that their plans were put out publicly, their entire playbook, and that kind of messed them up. They actually were going to go and start the conflict on that Wednesday. If you remember, Zelensky said that. They're now basically saying that they had that. I want to remind you, here's the other side of this coin. The CIA came out and admitted that they were monitoring everybody. At the same exact time, they said, hey, we have this, the UK said, we have this intel. It's almost like the US may have been monitoring the entire planet. Here's how this could still be evil top elites guy. That the CIA was monitoring the entire world and intercepted. They haven't admitted this, but it was within hours of the UK saying, we have intelligence, that we have the whole playbook and they're about to do it this time and this time and this time. They announced that, if you're going by this, and that screwed them up, but they still went ahead with it anyways. If you're going by that narrative, right? And they put out the plan, or did the CIA monitor everybody, steal everybody's information, and they intercepted that, and then to be able to say that to the UK and say, hey, like, we're going to give this to you UK, to put out, we're going to have to admit that we're monitoring every single person on the planet Earth. Who knows? I mean, we already know they did since Edward Snowden, but then CIA came out, and they came out and said extra stuff, like they're monitoring all these people. What do you think about that, Dex? Like, that came out the same day. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. And, it's our three-letter agency is involved in so many things outside of our own business and everyone else's business. There's no telling what strings they're orchestrating or not. And we know they've been well entrenched in media in the past. And I'm sure they've got their fingers in all sorts of interesting things going on with other countries and their political leaderships.
Now, after the last few years, there are so many people that just cannot, nobody knows. I see so much confusion. I see so much fear. I see so much division. And there are like 16 different theories on this as far as what is happening, because every section is broken down and people believe one part of it and they'll agree on that part, but the next part they don't. People think this is all Mockingbird stuff. This is everything. I think it's a little bit too much to be that. I don't know about that. There at least has to be real strikes, all that. But this is getting insane. Yeah, just I think that there's too much, but that's my personal opinion. And again, who knows? If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself. But one thing I do think is that we are headed into the massive thing that we've all thought was going to happen for years. I think we're here. All right, Dex, do we have our special guest? We were going to talk to Andrew tonight.
Yes, I have him, and let me get him online.
So Andrew is one of the main top people at EMP Shield. He was with them when they were ended up, basically pulled in and asked by different agencies to come help during the T-Man administration. So we're going to bring in Andrew. There's also the contest running, but also we're going to have a few questions for him, and then I'm going to actually pull up a couple things.
And Adam, while we're getting him on, and he is on the line, but while we're getting ready, if anybody in chat has a question for Andrew, put it in all caps, and I'll try and capture it and add him to our list if we can get to him.
So one of the
promises, because we've got a few from other people too.
Okay, and so one of the things is over the last week and a half, we have gotten hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions. People are worried about EMP. Obviously, this is one of the biggest threats to our country as far as EMP, hack, grid going down, these kind of things. This is actually what everybody is talking about as far as the next play in the playbook. So we thought it would be great if we had Andrew on, and the timing of it. We, of course, have the contest at the end of the month. So again, I hope that we can have him answer some of the questions. Also, they know a lot more. We won't be able to get everything that I wish we could, but again, I think we'll be able to ask some really good questions here. So just let me know, Dex, when we get him on.
Oh no, he's on.
All right, Andrew, what's going on?
I'm here. Hey, what's going on, brother? Adam, Dex, and the Fugle fam. Good to be on.
So I actually took down some of the questions that were asked by Fugle fam members and everything else. I guess you guys are probably really busy right now, huh?
We are incredibly busy. People see, number one, people realize there's a threat. You've got President Putin, who has literally said anybody who tries to stop us will see consequences, that have never before been seen in history. So there's a lot of people waking up right now and realizing that there is a direct threat against the United States, and also against other countries that are either considering being involved or might already be involved. Unfortunately, Putin does mean business, and we need to take his threat seriously. And there's a lot of activity going on, obviously at the federal level and with agencies as well. So there's just a lot of stuff going on right now. And but I'm glad to be on because, helping educate people, the more they know and the more aware they are, the better they can be prepared. And so I'm very happy to be here right now.
So Dex, do you want to go first? I know that you had some questions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with something simple. Like, how does an EMP actually work? And not the 1 hour version, but the simple layman's version. Like, some people think it's just like magic, rays shooting through the sky or something. But how does it actually work?
Yeah, and I'll keep this short and sweet. So primarily, EMP is created by a nuclear weapon. And the primary cause, the primary thing that creates the EMP is actually the gamma radiation from that blast. And so you've got high altitude nuclear EMP, which is created from a normal nuclear weapon, and then you have super EMP, which is it's created from a blast specifically designed to release extreme amounts of gamma radiation. And basically, what's going on is radiation is it's shooting downwards towards the Earth and passing through the atmosphere. And when it does that, it creates a thing called ionization, which basically just means that it's shooting freed electrons down towards the Earth. That occurs in two phases, one from the gamma radiation, and then the second phase is from the matter that falls a bit slower than the radiation. And these two phases, which are incredibly devastating to microelectronics at the ground level of the Earth, are, they're roughly 50,000 volts per square meter in a DC charge. It's huge. It's at roughly 300 miles above the Earth. It will span across the entire United States. That's how how widespread this weapon can be. And then there's a third phase of the EMP, which is actually when that blast is pushing outwards into space, causes that magnetosphere to fluctuate, which then creates a low and slow charge at the ground level of the Earth, inducing into the larger antennas, which is primarily the grid, because the grid can be a mile, 10 miles, or 100 miles long. And so the E3 portion is what's taking down the remainder of the grid, and the components that were already not destroyed from the E1 and the E2, which is basically then destroying the rest of the electrical grid as a whole.
Now, what are the different types of EMP weapons?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So primarily there's two types of EMP weapons. You have regular hemp, which is just a nuclear boomer up in the atmosphere. And then you have super EMP, which is a modified nuclear device designed to produce that gamma radiation. And then there's other energy weapons. So you have directed energy weapons, and then there's high-powered microwave. There's a bunch of specific energy weapons, but as far as EMP goes, it's primarily the two, which is EMP and then super EMP, which can be up to 200,000 volts per square meter.
Now, so we talked. So we've been with you for a long time. I don't know. I can't remember if we were with you before the executive orders that were signed. But essentially, to explain to the audience, the previous president signed executive orders to immediately harden our grid. We know from at least publicly, they said that they had this China task force around the same time, and they said that one of the biggest threats to our country was an EMP or something like it, or knocking down our grid,
right.
And there was a threat to it. And then he went into a bunch of secret meetings, and then kind of came out, and then we got the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, EMP resilience report, essentially saying that every American should have 6 months to a year of food due to the risk of having our whole grid go down. And then there was an executive hardening the grid. You were on that EMP resilience report. Your company was kind of called up, and then you guys went to work. Now, did the current president nullify those previous executive orders? Did that end up undoing itself the day that he got put in, or what happened?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and the answer is not what we would actually presume. So that executive order is still in place, believe it or not, and he did nullify quite a few executive orders, but that one did remain. So that's not to say that it's being actioned, because it's at a crawl pace right now, as opposed to the previous president, where we were at a very decent pace at getting things going. So it has slowed down, but it is still there, and it technically is still law.
Now, you guys have worked with agencies like DHS, DOD, and others, and obviously you have a lot of work ahead of you as far as
right.
Everything that is going on. Do you believe it is smart to protect yourself against this? Obviously, you guys are in the business of it, but as far as, do you think that this is still as much of a threat as it was 2 or 3 years ago?
Absolutely. I think this is one of the most devastating weapons in our adversaries' arsenals. And I think that right now is probably the highest threat that I've seen. There has been direct threats from China and Russia to use super EMP weapons against the United States, and a myriad of other threats, not mentioning what they would be using. But we know that this is one of the most devastating weapons they have. So yes, I think, and this is not Andrew from EMP Shield trying to sell a product. I want people to be aware. I want people to make their own decisions. Do what's best for you, your family, your loved ones, and your friends. But yes, it is a very severe threat. We all hope it does not happen. It would be, it would put us back to the 1800s, and that would be very bad for our country. But yes, it is a threat, and people do need to be prepared. Now, EMP Shield obviously does have a solution. But if that solution is not for you and you just want to use a Faraday bag or a Faraday cage, that's okay too. I just want people to be aware that this is a real thing. It is incredibly dangerous to our country, and hopefully we're able to educate a lot of people tonight. So
Now we have a few questions from the Foogle fam as far as the different questions that people have been sending in. But first, I did want to ask one more question as far as
sure.
So let's see here. As far as kind of when China tested that FOBS, the fractional orbital bombardment system, were you guys blown away by that, or were you guys called and they said they couldn't believe this, or was that fractional orbital bombardment, is that a risk of actually sending an EMP as well?
I need to be careful what I say. Maybe we'll pass on that one if that's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I am sorry.
That's okay.
All right. All right, and then let's see here. Kevin Foogle fam.
Here's what I can.
Okay.
Here's a maybe a simpler answer. There is weapons in space. Period. So that's just something. There is weapons. We number one, obviously, hypersonic platforms as a delivery system are becoming more common and being tested by our adversaries, such as China and Russia. And it is a very dangerous delivery system because of its speed and the ability to deter that platform because of the speed. But there is also, there's a incredibly high likelihood of having weapons in space. And that's about all I'll say there.
One other question, and this should be easy as far as, are you personally preparing? I know that you're higher up in the company that's dealing with all these agencies. Are you personally preparing for just anything and everything?
I am, absolutely. And I think everybody else should be too. And, we always, we plan for the worst and we expect hopefully the best, right? I am personally preparing myself, and a lot of the majority of our company is also doing the same. In fact, we had it wasn't a deliberate company-wide discussion, but it's been a discussion even more recently because of the conflict that's going on now. But every employee has EMP shield protection in their homes and their vehicles. And then we've had the discussion generally with employees and amongst ourselves, to obviously be prepared for water, which is very important, food, shelter, having a plan, which is something that a lot of people think they have, but having a thorough plan that you've thought through the different variables and scenarios. And then me personally, I've been prepared for quite a while, and I'm always just trying to improve my level of preparedness. I do have a cabin that's off grid and that sort of thing. But that's just kind of been the way I always have been. I spent a long time in the military in special operations. And for some reason, this is just something that I've always understood, that it's important to be prepared, because if you're not and something happens, there's nothing you can do at that point. It's the same with EMP. If you're not prepared before an EMP, after it happens, there's pretty much not a whole lot you can do other than start walking or ride a bike, and hopefully you have somewhere to go. So this is something that I hope a lot of people are really thinking about, and it's not to scare people.
Okay, and then we have kind of a list of people that wanted their questions asked. Kevin from Foogle Fam asked, "Will unplugging my truck battery prevent surge to the starter in an EMP?"
Oh, hey, that's a cool question. And hey, Kevin, yeah. So that's actually a really interesting question that many people ask, because there's some idea out there that if it's unplugged or it's disconnected, that somehow it's going to prevent damage to the vehicle. But the reality is that with the release of these free electrons and the induction of it, your electronics is going to be inducing these electrons regardless of if the system's connected or not, and they will still be destroyed. In fact, I'd posit that having the battery in the vehicle might actually provide more protection, because the battery is going to absorb a portion of that energy, although it's still not going to be enough to completely protect the vehicle, which is why you would want EMP protection on your vehicle. The majority of modern day vehicles, 1980 and older, are very high likelihood of being destroyed after an EMP.
That's good to know. And then KCH3 says, "I have an off-road vehicle with..." Part of the reason why we brought Andrew on is because he is an expert in this field, as far as, this is what he does, eats and breathes and sleeps. So some of these are just normal question, unrelated to, obviously you guys are EMP Shield. So you're the big name. You're one of the biggest names we know. in this. So it's really awesome that we have you as a resource. KCH3 says, I have an off-road vehicle with lots of electronics, a ham radio, and an EMP shield installed. Are my electronics and my ham protected?
Oh, KCH3, that's a great question. Thanks for it. So the answer is, if you have a ham or a radio system on a mobile platform, you are going to want a separate device to protect that, because it's its own system and it's got an antenna. So we do have 3 different versions of ham radio devices. We've got F connectors, N connectors, and then UHF connectors at the variables of 100 watts all the way up to 1,500 watts for commercial applications, which is also used by DHS shares and some Air Force Mars personnel as well. I said that twice, sorry. But there is protection available, and our radio models are actually the most affordable, because we understand that we don't want to keep the price very high, because we want people to be able to protect, as an example, on a mobile platform, the vehicle itself and then the radio system. So those are available on the website.
Now, Bill Bradley says, are EMP shields built in China like everything else?
Oh my gosh. No. So actually, this is one of the things that, when we started EMP Shield, it was literally one of our number one goals was to have 100% American made. And this doesn't mean assembled. This is not assembled in America. This is literally, we build almost everything except for some of the components right here in house. We have 2 manufacturing facilities and a third is on the way. We utilize a combination of pick and place machines, which takes the parts and actually builds the boards. These are the same machines that build the F-35 fighter jets electronics. Actually, there's only like 20 of them in the United States. So we've got that, and then a second line coming, and then we have about 70 employees who then hand assemble and solder and do the electronics, and then pot, which is the weather resistance hardening for the devices, and we do it all 100% in-house, and then we ship them ourselves. And everything is in-house right here in Burlington, Kansas.
So, and I've said that, and I've gotten comments every time like, oh, I bet parts of it are not, and parts of this. And I said, this is one of the few things, again, that we know of that's, 100%. So that's awesome. Don Alberta says, how many EMPs can an EMP shield take?
Oh, so what we know to be a fact is it can take at least 40. We didn't see a point in just continuing to test over and over. So it can take 50,000 volts per square meter 40 times. So it's an incredible amount. And here's the trick, though, and this is important for people to understand, is you're not going to have simultaneous EMPs back to back. You're going to have to leave time for the atmosphere to recharge, which would be roughly 16 to 20 hours at a minimum for that atmosphere to recharge. But with that being said, it would make sense that if an adversary wanted to 100% ensure everything was destroyed and maybe had an inkling that things maybe weren't destroyed or the first EMP was not as effective, they could wait a day or two and then do it again. And I say that so for the folks out there who have things in a Faraday cage, be cognizant and aware that if you pull those things out because you think it's over, there could potentially be a second attack. So be very careful. Pull the electronics out after the EMP out of your Faraday cage if you have them in there, or unplug them from the wall, which is protected by the EMP shield in the home. Use it and then plug it right back into the protected system, because you don't know if it's going to happen again after the recharging of the atmosphere.
Yeah, we've told people many times that it's going to be in pulses and it's going to happen multiple times. One thing that I thought was really cool, you've helped a lot of the Foogle fan members just outside of stuff. You guys have done things that we just never have seen anybody do. You're part of the community as far as you are a prepper. You are part of, mean, you, before you were ever with EMP Shield, you were actually doing the same stuff. You were into this. So again, I think that's why a lot of us like you more than, like you a lot more than just a company. Todd Wesley says, I have a cargo trailer with small gas generator. Is there an EMP shield to protect small generators and trailer electronics?
Oh, I love that question. So this actually plays into a myth that's out there, and it's really been bugging me for years, because there's companies out there that will try to sell you a Faraday bag for $400, and they have a picture of a little Honda generator, a pull start. I'm going to debunk the myth right here on the show. If you have a pull start generator and it's a mechanically driven generator, meaning there is no microelectronics, you don't need to protect it. There's nothing to get destroyed on that pull start generator. Now, with that being said, if you have a large whole home generator that uses electronics to control the whatever, and if it's got them, then you're going to need protection there. Now, as far as his trailer, if he has electronics in the trailer itself, then absolutely he will want protection, but just not for the generator. He's going to need it for the electronics, unless he's got a really fancy generator on that trailer. And I don't know what the system would be, but he could certainly, I'd say, give us a call. Be sure to tell us that Marf sent you, and then we'll get you exactly what you need.
Now, let's see here. Oh, can you make an EMP shield to help folks with a pacemaker? What will happen to a pacemaker when an EMP goes off?
Oh, that's a really good question. Man, you got some good questions today, Adam. That's a great question.
We did.
We've been getting that a lot this week.
They're all from the Foogle
You can
fan.
imagine why, but yeah, this is amazing. So I love it. So here's the thing. When you're talking EMP and the induction of freed electrons and the coupling of energy, the antenna size, or the footprint of what's inducing the energy, and many other variables really, really matters. And so about a year and a half ago, we had the engineering team really dig into the pacemaker thing, because I wanted to be able to give a correct answer. And here's what's going on with this. Modern day pacemakers, because of their footprint and because of some of the required EMI shielding inside of it, because of things like 5G and other frequencies, there is some shielding in there. There is a very, very low likelihood that it will be taking any damage whatsoever from an EMP. It's too small. It's got some shielding already built into it. It's going to be okay. And that's straight from the EMP Shield engineering team.
So, okay, that's awesome. So basically, most people with pacemakers do not have to worry, or at least with the modern ones. If they don't have a modern one, I would think at some point they're going to get a new one, because I think they have to be replaced every once in a while. Dex?
Right.
Yeah, and Andrew, just to help people understand induction and what that means and the footprint, and the way I try to describe it to people is, if you think about your car and all of the wiring that's running through it, it's a lot. Like, if you've ever looked at all the wiring in a car, it's a lot. Or if you think about your house and all the wiring that's running through the walls, there's a lot of it. And that wire, that copper wire, is what is inducting. And it basically, it's like thinking of it as a giant power antenna that's just sucking up energy out of the event, right? And then when you're talking about a small device, because it's so tiny, it doesn't have as much mass to actually pick up that energy. And is that a good way to think of it? Because I'm trying to, I get this a lot with people. They don't necessarily understand how the induction works and what it means to, to have a house full of wires versus, maybe a small modern cell phone that's highly shielded that might not actually have much of an effect on it.
Well, that's very well said. That pretty much sums it up. Is size does matter when it comes down to induction, and you need to, it has to be large enough to induce enough energy to be destroyed. Now, and that doesn't mean that smaller things can't be destroyed, but when you're talking about something that's the size of a quarter or a little larger than a quarter that has built-in shielding, not to mention there's a lot of other variables too. So as an example, one of the tests we did at Keystone Compliance, which is one of the military certified testing facilities that we went to, and we have another one, which I'll mention here in a second, that people don't know about yet. The angle really matters too. And number one, what we discovered very quickly is the induction rate that we thought would occur is incredibly lower than it actually is in real life. That's not to say that things aren't going to induce a high amount of energy, but it's actually much lower than people would expect. And then number two, we turned the testing equipment in all directions to test the variables. And so depending on how you're standing or where the electrons and the direction and angle they're coming from actually do matter. And this isn't just in reference to pacemakers, this is in reference to everything, but all of that really matters. And if it's not a perfect angle, it's going to induce less energy.
Now, a lot of comments over the last 4 years, and people say, "Why do I need protection if the power will be out everywhere? If the massive one happens, we're sitting in the worst case scenario. Why would they need one if power is going to be out everywhere?"
Yeah, that's one of my favorite questions, and it makes sense, because if you haven't thought about it, you're like, well, what's the point? I get it. I get the question, and I'm going to give you the correct answer here. Number one is EMP shield protects against EMP, coronal mass ejections, which is from the sun, and also, of course, power surges, and we guarantee lightning protection as well. So let's use the scenario of solar, the sun, or coronal mass ejection, which is from the sun. It's the charged particles that are shot off. Although we do believe that large-scale coronal mass ejections are cyclical, the last one was the Carrington event. We do believe another one's going to occur, and it could be any time. It could be 50 years. It could be 50 minutes. We don't know. But what we do know for certainty is, although that big one is going to occur at some point, the smaller to medium-sized ones are happening all the time. We've had several instances of small solar flares, just small ones, hitting the Earth, and the grid goes down for a week or 2 weeks. That's just a small, very small coronal mass ejection. So I would hate to be the person that the grid goes down, all that power destroys my home and electronics, and then the grid comes back up 2 weeks later, and I don't have I don't have everything in the home, even though the grid just came right back up, if that makes sense. So that's the first reason why, is because we're also protecting against the sun and also geomagnetic disturbances. And so if the grid goes down and destroys homes, if you have protection, your home's right back up and running, whether the grid comes back in 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. When the grid does come back up, you're immediately back up and running. So that's number one. Number two, and this is for a lot of the people that are probably listening right now, is having a backup power system, right? So the grid may go down, but if you have your home protected and your backup power system protected, whether it's solar, generator, wind, water, you name it, if it's protected and the home's protected, you're still going to have power. It's that simple. And a lot of off-grid applications or things like off-grid, it makes sense. And then there's also a lot of regular homes that have solar and have generators, and you're still going to have power even after an EMP. That's kind of one of the benefits if you have protection. And then, of course, number three is lightning. There's everyday events like dirty electricity, power surges, lightning that, we have hundreds of customers every week that are like, if I would have just bought this, or more, I guess these days it's more like every month until we get to the nasty weather seasons. But they say, man, if I would have just had this a couple days ago, I wouldn't have lost $30,000 worth of equipment, or, had to use my insurance. So just having an EMP shield in your home just to protect against regular everyday things that, although some people say, well, it has never happened to me, it could very well happen to you. And then if it occurs, you don't have protection, it's too late. So that's just that's three reasons, why you'd really want to have it in your home.
So I also want to clarify, there's going to be a lot of people that say, that we're affiliated, so that's why we have you on. Just to let you guys know, I actually believe that this will save lives. In the event this happens, I think that this is something that is actually helping the community. In my personal belief that everyone should have this. Yes, it would be perfect if people went through us. But again, part of having you on was to also answer these questions that people have about EMP. EMP is pretty much number one on everybody's mind right now, because they are pretty much the entire world is saying that this playbook either considers a cyber attack next, or an EMP, or something else, because now multiple adversaries, not just China and Russia, now have this capability, even including North Korea. So this is really on the top of everybody's list, and it's like, why didn't we have this in every home? I have told people, like, this should be a requirement when you sell a home, that it should be part of code that it has EMP shield or protection. And I don't understand why it doesn't. People will die without food and water, without everything else. If everybody had this in a backup, it would be like we wouldn't even be phased by an EMP. Instead, 90% of the country would go down. It's insane.
Right. Well, if you don't mind me caveating real quick on that, I'll quickly tell my story about why I decided to leave the military to help start EMP Shield. And it's a really short story. And the fact is, at first, when I heard about EMP Shield, I didn't even think it was real. My friend, Rowdy, he's our vice president, said, Andrew, you got to check this out. And I said, no way. There's no way that's real. There's no way that exists. They're like, no, you have to come with us. We're going to go with the government tech scouts. You can come to the testing. So obviously I was convinced. I met all the government folks. I went to the testing. It's a real technology. But the reason that I actually decided to do this, to quit my career in the military, and I spent a decade in special operations, and I was commissioned for 4.5 years. At the time, I was enlisted, then commissioned. I left because this was a chance for me to do something bigger than myself and to help a very large amount of people, period. That's why I'm doing this right now. And the other thing for people to understand is I love the Foogle fam. I'm part of the fam. The show's great. But if you're not into EMP Shield, that's okay. But the things that we're saying tonight, whether you want the EMP Shield or not, are still highly valuable and educational for everybody listening, because we're telling you things about EMP that many people don't know. And it's going to help you prepare. So that's kind of my...
No, it is. Yeah. Here's another one for you. If they launch a high-altitude EMP, will there be any radiation or fallout concerns? Are we doomed anyway?
Oh, yeah. So no, that's a great question. It's absolutely not anything to worry about. It's going to be an effective level is at roughly 250 to 300 miles above the Earth. That's like International Space Station height above the Earth. You're probably not even going to see the blast go off unless it's at night. And even then, it's going to be very, very small. So yeah, it's so high up, there's not going to be any radiation issues. The real effect is going to be obviously the freed electrons inducing and destroying electronics, and there's no health effects whatsoever from the EMP.
Murphy's Law asked, will an EMP destroy solar panels?
Oh, okay. That's a great question too. So no, a solar panel in and of itself is pretty much impervious to an EMP. It has a photovoltaic coating. Some of them might have some diodes, but 99% of solar panels, they're not going to be destroyed. However, a solar panel is designed to collect energy, and they have hundreds of feet of copper trace inside them. So in an EMP, that solar panel is going to collect a huge amount of energy and then go down the line. That the large portion of energy is going to go down the line, although it will induce simultaneously. And so that's why it's very important to have protection on your solar system as well.
Here's one directly from me. Have they updated? We heard this study that 90% of us would perish, and that's not because we were taking each other out or actual physical damage. It was because we didn't have water. The study basically said 90% of Americans would perish if we had a full-scale grid down. Have they updated that at all? Is there anything new as far as have they done any other studies or anything that the people should know?
So, yes, the number itself has not been updated. So the answer to that is no. There is internal debate on the number. We've been discussing it. A lot of people think it should be higher. Some people think it should be a little lower. Regardless of that, it is 90% is an incredibly high number, and that's what the government says is going to be, the level that it's at after 1 year. And it is primarily due to a lack of running water, disease, issues like that, sewer, and then, a lack of food, and then other things that occur, such as no logistics, no transportation, no communication, no internet, everything like that. So it's a culmination of everything. And yeah, sorry, I had a second thought there, but I just lost it.
Dex, do you want to ask the next couple? I'm all of mine are tapped out.
So, is there a difference in the effect of an EMP? Like, I know an EMP is targeted right over the center of America, basically, or a little north of center, to sort of reach the entire U.S., part of Canada, and maybe even a little bit of Mexico, depending on how high it is. Are there different effects of that EMP based on where you live in America versus, say, the east or west coast, or the dead center middle of the top of where it goes off?
Yeah, there are, actually, and it's kind of funny. We call it the smiley face. Believe it or not, I was on a meeting this morning with the DEMSO down in Texas, and I always laugh every time they talk about the smiley face. But all that means is, so The intensity, primarily we're discussing the E1 and the gamma radiation and the effects. The intensity does taper the farther away you go from the initial location of the blast above the Earth. So as an example, I'm describing it verbally, it'd be better to see a picture, but if you use color, it would be red in the Midwest and then more of an orange out towards the coast because the intensity kind of tapers off. But that's not to say that the whole country is not going to have damage, because that's not the case. It's regardless of the intensity, it's so much energy that even on the coast, the E1 is still going to destroy microelectronics. It's just that the intensity in the Midwest, if it was to occur above Kansas like we normally account for, that location would basically have more as opposed to on the coasts.
Does that play into the grids and how long it takes a grid to come back up, whether or not the intensity was directly above it, say in the middle of the country versus further out on the coasts?
It could, that's a tough question because there's so many variables. In fact, we have physicists and engineers, not just at the EMP Shield, but in the government and in corporations around the United States, thousands of them doing numbers every single day in an attempt to evaluate what the almost to the T impact would be. They do simulations, they do all kinds of things. The current understanding is that if it's even just a regular HEMP at 300 miles above the Earth, there's a higher likelihood of pretty much everything as far as grid goes being destroyed. The problem is it's a question that has so many variables, but the short answer is there's going to be extreme damage
now
across the United States.
I just saw a bunch of really good ones. These ones, if you could do rapid fire, because there's four of them and I saw, and I don't want to forget them. First one, I want to say was Dale said, what about cars with push start? Can they be protected? Do they need to be protected? Cars with push start button.
Yep. If it's mechanically driven, if it can be mechanically driven without electronics, it'll still function. If it can basically drive without the electronics and it's only mechanical, then it should be good to go.
But with push button start, that would need.
I thought you meant like. I'm sorry. I thought you meant like push the car to make it start.
Yeah.
With a
push to start, not the old school
start?
Trucks.
Oh,
not a hill start.
No, man, I'm screwing up the rapid fire. Sorry, that's okay. Okay, so push button start, you're going to need protection.
Okay, and then is a solar panel unplugged, 100 watts, safe in the closet? I would say yes, based on your
solar
previous.
Panel. Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
And then Sandy B says, why didn't they do this in the first place? If this is so important, why didn't they just do this in the first place? Somebody else answered money. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't think it's money at all. And if you're talking about the national power grid, it's actually fairly inexpensive comparatively to what we spend on things that are not even remotely close to national security. I don't think it's actually a money thing. If I knew the answer to that question, we'd be having more protection across the grid right now. It's even the EMP Commission 2003, 2004 says this is a reasonably inexpensive thing to begin doing.
Okay, and then
it's obviously easier to include it. Yeah.
Dale said, how do I protect my radios? You make ones for ham radios, but other than that, things that are plugged into the wall. If my computer is off and plugged into the wall, the house one protects that. I think he was saying, like, if the computer's off, does it matter? Does it matter if the computer's on or off?
No, it doesn't matter. On or off, it's still going to, if it doesn't have protection in the home and it's not in the Faraday cage, it's going to be destroyed.
And then Dex, you have a question about fires, like how fires started about the Carrington level, right?
Yeah, the fires that happened during the Carrington level event. Should we expect to see those again, since in today's modern time with another Carrington level event or even an EMP?
Yes, it would actually be worse. It would be much worse in this day of age if we had a Carrington event. We're talking about thousands, the equivalent of thousands of nuclear weapons hitting the atmosphere the level of energy would be incredibly extreme. So yes, there would be a reasonable likelihood of fire.
So that is probably part of the 90% perishing would be these fires start all over the country. And I mean, think about it. There would be no communications. Right. So then you would not have the fire department, responding to everything. It would just be kind of, it would be a heyday. I mean, people would just be running around with like chickens without their heads.
Right. And I do want to caveat, the likelihood of fire is a lot higher with a Carrington level event as opposed to an EMP. An EMP could still create fire, especially from the E3 portion and the energy coming from the grid into the home. But that is a lower level compared to a Carrington level event where it's just an insane amount of energy.
Would an EMP shield protect if we had a Carrington level event? A lot of things would catch fire, but if you have an EMP shield, would that protect your home? Like your house wouldn't catch on fire or your wires wouldn't?
Yep, it absolutely would, because the EMP shield is designed to sense the over voltage coming from the grid and will disconnect your home's breakers from the grid when it senses it.
So that could save somebody, because the EMP or the solar flare, both are going to be silent. We're not going to hear it, right? So somebody could be sleeping and sleep right through something happening. All of a sudden, their whole house is on fire. Their electronics, their outlets are on fire. They're going to be sleeping and probably, passive carbon monoxide. But that could be prevented.
It could be. And now to kind of touch on that just really quickly, for a CME, we're going to know, well, if it becomes mainstream, it's going to take roughly 2.5 to 3 days for the charged particles to reach the Earth from the sun. So I would hope there would be some kind of a warning prior to disconnect your home. Then these are for folks that don't have EMP shield to go disconnect your home. For EMP, there's absolutely no warning. It's going to happen within a couple microseconds. It's already, the majority of it's done. And then it's just the E3 portion that the EMP shield then, waiting for the over voltage and disconnecting the home.
But with the sun, part of it hits us in 8 minutes. Will that do any effect to us here on the ground?
So yeah, that's the flare portion or the X-rays. It is going to have some impact. A lot of satellites, a lot of communications equipment is going to have some issues, especially if it's a very large X-ray. But it's not even close to what's going to happen with the charged particles.
Okay. Dex?
Yeah. Somebody wants to know, David wanted to know, what are the components inside, if you could reveal, which I know you probably can't, but is there anything you could share about what's actually in there?
I'd love to. Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about what the actual technologies are. Obviously, it's a very proprietary thing that we've invented. But what I can explain is generally how it works. There's two things you need to consider when you're looking at EMP protection, and that's the speed of the device. So its capability to begin pulling energy and at what speed. And engineering always argues that speed's not the right word. It's actually reaction. But how fast it can do that, and then how robust the device is and able to take certain amounts of energy. So in the EMP shield, there's actually 3 technologies that are functioning in conjunction with each other to be able to do this. So the first technology is incredibly fast. The very first technology, and that's the first thing that is reacting at insane speed, so at roughly half a nanosecond, it begins doing its job until it hits a certain level of its capability, because we don't want to overload one technology, because if that technology gets destroyed, the device can't function. So it then does a thing called load shedding. Once it hits a threshold, it load sheds the remaining energy to the second technology, and then that same concept continues to a third technology, and it kind of goes throughout that process so that the device is able to do things like take multiple hits and so forth.
Well, so there was a question here. How do we have any percentage of how likely this is? Have they ever put a number on it? They say 90% would perish, but how likely is something like this? And is this a higher percentage more likely than any other disaster? Do you know?
Oh, that's a good question. The likelihood of an EMP happening, I could never tell you, because, it's a weapon. The likelihood of 90% perishing, there's been the study of that, I mean, that was ongoing for a long time. I mean, this study's been going on for several decades. So I think that number's pretty close to accurate. Scientists are more or less arguing about a couple percentages in either direction on that one. Now, the likelihood of the sun doing what the sun does is very, very high likelihood. So we are, and this is not to scare people, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to, we will take another Carrington level event. I don't know when. They think it's cyclical at roughly 150 years. So which means we're getting around that time, but it's not 100% predictable either. But it will eventually happen again at that level. We just really don't know when.
And when a Carrington level event happens, if it's pointed at us, it would essentially right now. Oh, I guess here's one. So you guys have started protecting multiple different things around the. You can't say everything that you protect because there's obviously there's some things are classified. But as far as how far are we along? You know, how much of the country would go down if it happened right now?
Yeah. Well, the power grids do not have protection yet. That's I hate to say it. It's what we're striving to do, but the actual power grids themselves and the majority of the nuclear facilities and the power facilities do not have protection. And I know it's a scary thing to say, but I need to say it because it's the truth. Now, as far as protection on specific critical infrastructure, we are beginning to put critical infrastructure protection out there. Some really cool things we're doing. We've now started doing walkthroughs for entire counties. So we're working with the emergency services teams in different counties, and we're walking through, and we're soon going to be outfitting entire counties with EMP Shield. Unfortunately, that's more of the county's critical infrastructure, like communications equipment, emergency services, the EOCs, and then the facilities and the vehicles and stuff like that. Not so much the grid yet. But we are doing that. We're also working to outfit specific data centers and all kinds of other critical infrastructure. But unfortunately, the grids are not yet protected.
And then, so civilians are essentially the ones that are left out here. I mean, yes, they have to get it themselves.
For everybody listening, it's on you. You need to protect yourself. Absolutely.
That's what I've been saying for years, Andrew. It's like no one. It was like because I used Hurricane Katrina as an example. What happened with the police and the people that were protecting? What happened is when that disaster happened, it was so bad and so fast. Those police people, those sheriffs, they had families too. They had mothers in nursing homes and things like that. They had to leave their station to go save their own families. That's how bad it was. And it's like, if we have something like this happen, that, they're trying to prepare for it, military bases, these big agencies, they're going to have a plan, but the average person does not. Would you agree with that?
I would. That's why I've been, and, you guys have helped and hundreds of other organizations, but we're trying to get the awareness out there that you need to protect yourself. And that's even what DHS tells that's what the report was about. It was saying to the normal population, like, hey, wake up. You need to have this prepared. And they're not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but they're saying be prepared in case it does,
Yeah. Dex, do you have anything before we go to the last part here?
There was one comment from Save Yourselves, Sheeple. He said, "You saved my home twice from direct lightning strike." So I thought that was interesting. I'm sure you've heard many of those stories too, right?
We have. So we've got hundreds of real world testimonials. Obviously it's lightning related, but we've actually started building a thing, we call it the Wall of Fame, where when we get these EMP shields back from the lightning strike, we actually put them up on the wall, and we've got a ton up there and a lot of testimonials. And there's even been folks, so the EMP shield protects 250 linear feet. So there's been instances where a townhouse with two sides of the home, both were protected. And there was actually an investigation because they couldn't figure out how in the world the direct lightning strike didn't destroy anything. And then there's a video testimonial of this out there, literally. And if you guys want the link, I can send it to you later, but they couldn't figure it out. And it's because they had an EMP shield on one side of the home.
Well, that's pretty incredible. We know, my wife knew somebody who essentially was out $65,000. Their house caught fire. This was in Washington about probably 10 years ago, but the same family, they lost their cousin to a fire. The same thing caused by lightning, and the person was in sleeping in that side of the home, and they perished before they even knew what was going on. So it's pretty serious. As far as lightning in the Midwest, we don't have it as much out here. When we do, we get scared we scared the crap out of. But in the Midwest, you guys have that all the time. So I would highly think about that. Dex, a lot of the times he can barely do a show because he'll have storms outside that are just insane. Dex, of course, is protected. And also the things that it can protect are things that Dex used to be replacing all the time. Dex, didn't you used to replace the part that connects your house all the time?
Yeah, I used to have damage all the time I have an outbuilding that's connected, and it would pick up strikes nearby, and yeah, that's now a thing of the past. Yeah,
you literally couldn't do a couple shows because of it, and then that was before you installed yours. So, anyways, Dex, do you want to talk about you guys are going to be doing the contest too? You guys are going to be giving away a couple more. Is that right?
Yeah, that absolutely. So just so folks know, and we're going to get to the news in just a minute, the rest of the news in just a minute. I normally say this at the end of the show, but if you open the description on YouTube and click on show notes, you can get to our website, and on our website is how you can enter the contest. And I'll let Andrew talk more about what the contest is and what they're giving away, but we're going to have it there every day, every show for you, so that and a reminder, because you can enter daily as well. So, hey, Andrew, you want to tell everybody what you guys are giving away?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're giving away 3 EMP shields, and we've been doing this kind of every quarter. And I think as far as EMP Shield Marfoogle, we've been doing it at least twice a year. So there's a lot of folks that have probably already done the first one. Jump into this new one. I'm sure I'll come on and we'll announce the winners, here in about 28 days when it's over, or 27 days. And I'm really excited for it. It's one of the things I really look forward to every single quarter, is being able to give these away and help folks out, especially the Foogle fam. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So again, folks, we'll remind you, just like I do every show so far. We've done it last three shows. We'll keep doing it so you can remember, even if you've already entered, to go back and enter again, because you get daily entries. And you want to increase your odds of winning. So I know there's plenty of people out there that want an EMP shield, maybe can't afford it right now, or need an extra one. They've already got one. Right. They need one for a car or a house. This could be your ticket. So,
yeah. Well, thank you, Andrew, for coming on. And I'm sure there'll be more questions in the comments. Maybe if you see any interesting ones, if you could check back on this video, maybe just check the comments after we're done. Maybe tomorrow, just check in and see if there's anything you can answer for people. I don't know if you'll have time to do that, but I'm sure in the comments of this video you can respond as EMP Shield. We get so many and we're overwhelmed with it. Like, we don't have, we're not experts. This is what you do all day, every day. Mm-hmm. I think it was really helpful. Right. As far as I did not know that solar panels were safe. I knew that you had to protect solar, but I did not know that but the actual solar panels by themselves were safe. So that was something I did not know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, thanks so much for having me on, man. I love the Foogle fam. It's literally the greatest group of people, and we take calls all the time, and everybody keep calling into us and tell us you're from the Foogle fam, and you'll get a discount. And one last thing, and I'm really excited about this, but we just recently passed another series of tests from one. I won't be too specific yet, but it's from one of the senior leaders of the U.S. EMP Commission. And those test reports should be out shortly. It could be anywhere from 3 weeks to a little bit over a month, but they'll be out. And there's going to be a white paper, and they were very excited about the test results. And I think everybody else is going to be too.
Well, and will more stuff be declassified in the future? Can you just take a guess on kind of what is happening behind the scenes with EMP stuff and all that? Do you foresee in the next year that more stuff will be out?
I think so. There's what I can tell you for sure is there is going to be a series of reports coming out, a couple, EMP Shield will be mentioned, at least as a contributor or co-author in several of them. So just keep your eyes open, and obviously I'll be sure to pass the information when those are released. Some of them are for critical infrastructure, some of them about the effects of EMP or the government's ability to measure the effectiveness and all kinds of different things that we've been involved in. So they're coming. As far as declassification, that's a tough one. I don't really know, but I do know that there is a lot of work in the background going on for us, for the government, all kinds of folks, different corporations that are all teaming up to solve this problem. And now we're really just hoping that, Uncle Sam will start allowing us to do it at a national level. So.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for now years of just being an incredible person, and thank you for, and you don't have to come in on your off days and support. That's it's really cool. I know that probably helps too, but at the same time, it's
I love the show. I really do.
I know.
I really do. I love the show. I watch at least 2 or 3 times a week, and I love helping the Foogle fam. I really do. And to all the folks that I've met, we were in Vegas. We were actually there with Five Finger Death Punch. We had them at our booth for 4 days. We were also there with his name's Horny Mike from Counting Cars. He was at our booth, and met lots of Foogle fam there. I was down in Miami a couple weeks ago. Met a couple people. The one name that I remember is Frank. So hey, Frank, if you're listening, it was great to meet you, man. If you see me, come say hi. I love to meet the Foogle fam. I really do.
I know, that was awesome when you sent us the video of the lead bassist or guitarist. His name is.
He's the bassist. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, lead bassist from Five Finger Death Punch did a video. They said that they were Foogle fam, and then Horny Mike from Counting Cars. Yeah. He ended up being in that video too, saying hi to the Foogle fam and stuff. I thought that was really cool. Well, thank you, Andrew, and thank you for again, just sending those kind of things and everything else. I appreciate you.
Yep. You're very welcome. Talk to you later.
All right. And if you guys want to get your own EMP shield, again, this is something we actually believe will save lives. That's before we ever even had any kind of partnership, we were telling people to do this. So marfooglenews.com/EMP. Again, this way it helps our show and you get a big discount. We were grandfathered in before they got, a lot bigger. In fact, they had one little place when we started with them. Now they're on their 3rd factory. So again, get it. Go over and check it out. Make sure to put this link in, and then you'll get a discount, and you'll be helping your favorite channel. I hope that answered everybody's questions. We had so many. We had to kind of pick through and pick the most important, and thought that some of those would cover the other questions. Again, Andrew from EMP. If you were like, who is this? They are, of course, worked with many agencies, and they can't say everything they've done yet. But again, definitely would be considered experts in the field. So, all right. Thanks, Dex, for helping out. Again, thanks for getting them on and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Dex, let's talk about the Ghost of Kiev. All of these hero stories are coming out about...
Isn't that odd, the hero stories? I mean, you would I don't know if you expect to hear this, but I saw one. I'm like, okay, one. And then it was 4. And there's probably 5 or 6. I only think we have a few that we're going to cover here, maybe 3 or 4, but they just seem like they're coming out left and right.
There's nonsense. Well, and what if any of these were true? The thing I think of Russian and Ukrainians is these guys are tough. Well, not only because their entire country has had a rough turn of events over the last forever. Many places in Russia, I've never been there, but I have done enough research, and I've seen enough documentaries about how most places live. I'm not going to judge all of them because I'm sure there's extremely nice, influential neighborhoods and things like that. But there are a lot of places in Ukraine and in Russia that are very downtrodden. And these people are tough. They are tough people. And I'm talking about the Russian people, not the government, but the people that are there. There are some really amazing, both Ukrainian, Russians, Belarusians. I have made friends with several that are just amazing people. I used to play chess in a chess group. I met a lot of Ukrainians and Russians. They were extremely good chess players because in the places that they came from, and this was serious, places that they came from, that was one of the only board games they could have, and sometimes they made their own boards. They would make their own boards with wood. They would carve it into tables in, the very low-tech playgrounds that they had. They would carve it in and even use charcoal as the board. These are the guys that I met when I was a kid doing, and this is the stuff that stuck out to me. These guys are tough, but the question here is this propaganda to keep morales high, or are these real just bad, tough, mofos going out there and doing stuff? It says, basically this story was that it says there's no evidence that a single MiG pilot shot down multiple Russian warplanes, but historically such legends are potent morale boosters. So there's basically no factual, tractual evidence of this, but it says as Russia's wide-scale invasion of Ukraine grinds through its second day, there has been no shortage of claims and counterclaims about the situation as regards the air war that's taking place. So far, actual concrete evidence of aircraft lost in action, whether Russian or Ukrainian, has been limited, to say the least, amid this confusing atmosphere. The story of the Ghost of Kiev, a Ukrainian MiG-29 Fulcrum fighter pilot who has allegedly racked up an astonishing tally of aerial kills. 6 so far, while defending the capital he loves, has taken hold. So this is, again, we don't know. There's little evidence to prove that this is true, but these stories, they mean something to a lot of the Ukrainian people, right? It says, and by the way, they are doing things by the book as far as like getting people's morale up. If it's true that they are really on their own, and this is it, I mean, it looks like a storybook story, right, Dex? I mean, like, we're talking about the president going out on the street and saying, "I'm going down with the ship," kind of thing, and we'll show that later.
Right.
I mean, this is insanity.
Yeah, it is like a David and Goliath kind of story, right? At least that's the picture it's being painted.
Yeah, it most definitely is.
Well, and by the numbers it is too. I mean, just the straight up numbers of size and capability, they're completely outnumbered, but you would think that they would have been rolled over in a matter of minutes, but they seem to be holding. I don't know how much longer they can hold, but they've done a lot better than most people thought.
Yeah, again, there is one video that is on TikTok that shows a jet flying about 15 feet above the air, and then missiles actually coming out. That is, to everyone's chagrin, that is a real video. I guess the question that everybody has is that a stage video that like they purposely went by and they were videotaping it, right? But that is a scary video. Imagine if that's real, there's kids talking in the background. They're looking out the window and they see this jet fly down. If you haven't seen this, it's absolutely Have you seen this, Dex? Where the jet is flying?
No, I have not.
15 feet above the ground. They're opening their blinds, and it looks just like the scene, the playground scene from Terminator. That's what their yard looks like. Just a little fence and like little, stuff in the yard, overgrown grass, and this frickin' plane flies in and launches missiles. It's very clear. I mean, that if that was fake, then that would have had to been. It's actually the best. It would be the best video I've ever seen in anything, fake or real. That would be the person who made that would be doing the next Top Gun. I mean, like, it was unbelievable footage, and that's why people don't believe it. It was so incredible. Looking out the window, and the missile goes right by the house. Incredible stuff. And then final words of Ukrainian soldiers killed by Russians in island massacre, right? They say that this is I don't know how any of these news outlets are doing this, and nobody has actually 100% confirmed if they ended up blowing this up or taking them prisoners of war or what. It says 13 Ukrainian soldiers bravely told a Russian warship to go F themselves before they were brutally after refusing to surrender. The defiant border guards had been tasked with protecting the Snake Island in the Black Sea from Russian invaders after Moscow launched a full-scale invasion on Ukraine. Which, again, not enough evidence to show all of that. But a heroic Ukrainian soldier blows himself up on a bridge to prevent Russian advance. Do you see are you seeing a pattern here? Like, This is why people think that it's possible propaganda. So a Ukrainian soldier has been hailed as a hero for blowing himself up to destroy a bridge in an effort to stop Russian tanks from invading his country. Why didn't he just blow up the bridge? But the guy's a hero now. Marine Battalion Engineer Vitaly Shakon Vladimirovich was deployed to Hanichek Bridge in the southern province of Kherson when the Russian tanks advanced, the Ukrainian military said on its Facebook. Kherson, which is also where that main gentleman, his face is all over. He's looks of Indian descent, but he's done a lot of TikTok videos doing interviews and talking to people there. He said he was in Kherson. And then there was also the CNN guy that was... Here's another thing that really bothers me. I see all these clips of everybody talking, the air raid sirens go off, and immediately CNN, Fox, all these news, and this happened 3 times already, they all immediately say, oh, and they all look scared, and then they all put flak jackets on, like exactly the same. Oh, put your flak jacket. And then the reporter says, oh, we're talking about your flak, oh, yeah, we got to get your flak jacket on. If there's an airstrike, a flak jacket ain't doing nothing. Why don't you have a flak jacket on in the first place? What was the effect of showing people that, then the air raid sirens go off, and then they're all scared, looking around, looking behind them. 3 different reporters did the same thing. Oh, and they're visibly shaken. Yeah, are these non-experienced reporters? Like, these reporters should have been through Baghdad, Afghanistan, everywhere else. Air raid sirens shouldn't be nothing by then. Maybe they're new, I don't know. But also, then they all get out their flak jackets. If you're in a war-torn country, no matter what, why don't you have that on anyways? I didn't get that part, but I thought that was kind of fishy. On the difficult day of our country, when Ukrainian people gave way to Russian occupiers in all directions, one of the hardest places on the map of Ukraine was the Crimean intersection, where one of the first enemies met a separate Marine battalion. So this guy and then ended up blocking the bridge and then, boom, supposedly taking himself out. And then Ukraine hits airfield in Russia in missile strike to blow to Putin after downing 6 helicopters. So they're also saying they took down 6 Russian helicopters. It says, and they said that they took their airfield back. It says, Ukraine hits airfield in Russia with missile strike in latest blow to Putin after shooting down 6 helicopters and killing and capturing 800 troops. Or capturing? What did Russia send, like 800 into a group of 10,000? Like, what is going on here? As Russia says, it has detained over 160 soldiers and blitzed 18 tanks. If they're taking soldiers, then they're not, sounds like they're being nice to each other or something's going on. Dex, what do you think about that?
Well, I guess if somebody surrenders, the right thing to do is to capture them, right?
Do you think that Russians, if this is real, do you think any of the Russians are surrendering?
Well, I don't know. The Ukrainians on the island certainly didn't.
Supposedly. I bet they wouldn't. I think both of these countries come from the same cloth, right? They're both cut from the same cloth. They're both tough as nails. Especially some of the cultures that live in the colder temperatures, like, the Siberia kind of culture. Those are extreme. All right, just quick reminder, go over to marfooglenews.com/energy if you want to check out the solar generators. You can also get an energy generator with EMP actually built in. We had Andrew on, so we won't go through quickly. We'll go quickly through that, but just make sure to go over, check out marfooglenews.com, and check out the energy, of course, the solar generator. There's a waiting list to get these, so if you do want to get it, I would highly recommend going over and checking it out very fast. marfooglenews.com.
And get on that list before March 1st because the price goes up.
Yes, March 1st, the price on all energy goes up, and that's not something they can help. That is because of some of the components that are in it are now getting raised. So the prices on these energy generators, INERGY, are going up. You can go to marfooglenews.com/energy. You would want to get on that list and get yourself to lock yourself down one before. These are basically modular solar generators. Again, what we just learned, you can get solar panels and they'll be safe. You can actually get the energy, the actual unit. You can get one that is actually protected with EMP shield. That's how we ended up meeting energy. We knew about energy because they're one of the most sought after generators out there, but that's how we ended up getting connected with them, because they are now partnered up on one of their projects to have a EMP shield protected energy solar generator. These, you can add as many batteries as you want underneath. You can go with the base model, which is running our entire show, 2 power bars and my router. So if power goes out, we still go on. Literally, the rest of my house could be completely out of power. This show will still go. All right, and as long as the internet doesn't get cut from the actual hard line, but yeah. That's marfugglenews.com/energy. And then we have Ukraine claims it shot down a Russian IL-76 transport plane. It's just one after another. And then Dex, radiation levels spike after Chernobyl disaster site seized by Russian troops. What's the deal with this?
Yeah, so they went in, obviously there was a skirmish there. So I don't know, we don't know the full story. Some people are speculating that during that skirmish, when they took it over, that, potentially equipment or other things, or even whether it's just equipment up, turning over topsoil, or if there was even some frags or something that may have hit in areas that caused a stir-up. But there has been an increase in radiation levels in that area. And they've been measuring it, even people measuring it from satellites are seeing it, but also in the area.
Yeah, so, and tons of the Fugel fam that are watching this, and with the publicly available tools that they monitor this stuff, and then other countries, even non-NATO countries, are looking at this and going, holy crap, what just happened there? As you remember, we covered that they had a bridge from Belarus that was on the backside of Ukraine there, and that bridge went directly, and it made a path over to Chernobyl. Now, Chernobyl is basically a ghost town with the Chernobyl nuclear explosion that happened, right? That area. One thing that's weird is I've seen many documentaries about how they have contained Chernobyl and the encasement that they put on that. What if they blew that up or something? Wouldn't that cause trouble for the whole world?
Oh yeah, it would. I mean, just they're talking that this is just from turning over topsoil from heavy equipment, or maybe frags blowing up. But imagine if they actually did something large. All of that dust and particles would then be put back in the air, and it would create another miniature fallout scenario. Let alone if it disrupted any of the meltdown that happened there that eventually got contained. If it all of a sudden undid the containment of that.
Encasement. I was going to show you, because over the years it was like the biggest operation in the world to encase this thing. Let's see. Yeah, and then they made this new shelter that they actually had to build one piece at a time. It's giant. I mean, we're talking about bigger than any stadium you've ever seen, but opposite. Like building a stadium on top of something, and then it. Let's see if we have pictures of this. I mean, you can't even get a good scale of size. If they hit this with a Moab or something and destroyed it, or put a hole in it, or did something, that would be a nightmare. This is the encasement. It's really cool, the documentary on how they did it, because this thing had to roll and actually, on train tracks, roll over it, because they couldn't build it. They had to build it far away, like a few blocks away, because everybody was getting such bad poisoning that they had to build it away from it and on a track, so then when they were done, they could just automatically push it and have it roll over the thing. So they had to make it a custom shape so it would fit over, and then after it got fit over, they would close the flaps on the other side. There's a movie about it too that's just absolutely stupendous. You have to watch. I wish I knew the name of that. It talks about how they built this thing, and it's just it is incredible. Here's a shot of when they were building it, and the people are like the size of a grain of sand on this picture, because these are 8-foot fences, and this thing goes up hundreds and hundreds of feet. These cranes are not even as tall. So anyways, that was the building of it, and if something happened to that, that would be no good news. And then Russian tank crushes Ukrainian car, supposedly with somebody inside. There's two different angles that I have seen so far. This video shows a main street. One thing I don't get is if there's tanks rolling in, why is there just one rogue tank? And then why are people still driving around? If I saw a tank, there was one guy who drove right by the tank, like, oh, tank. Is that really how it is? I know they say, like, you know, this is how they do in Russia. Tank roll down the street. But no joke, the guy didn't even, like, swerve out of the way like it was a biker, you know. Oh, there's a bicyclist. I'll swerve out of the way. No, he saw a tank and just was like, no, I'm not going. I'm not moving. You better not go over the yellow line. Meanwhile, the car underneath is scrunched and there's probably an arm hanging out. How we do in Russia. A horrific video has shown the moment when it appears to be a Russian tank crushes a car. And I don't get why everybody's saying a civilian is inside. Was there video that I have not seen? I have not seen a single video that shows somebody in the car or get into the car. Have anybody else see that? Let me know in the chat down below. Thank you, Lil Red the Fam. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. Will frequency hurt dog ears? Let's see here. No, I actually, somebody I knew that asked that last time we talked. A Marable 5R12 Wuxod. I think that was for Andrew. I know that at least that dogs won't be affected by them. So if my motorbike and car has the battery out, do I still need an EMP shield?
Yeah, we answered that. And you did.
And then best leading information, thanks, EMP Shield, Survival Living. Hey, sorry for taking so long to get to that. Survival Living, also, again, great channel. Make sure to go check them out. What about the God rods, or the rods of God? Kendra Perkins. I don't know if Andrew would have been able to answer anything about that, but like he said, there's 100% space weapons in the sky. I mean, we know that.
I bet he knows.
I know, and that's... You know that he can't say anything about it too.
Hey, we have a caller that's gonna validate nukes in space. Not today, but it was one of the callers that dropped the other day. They told me they'd call back in. A family member. Yeah, it'll be interesting when that happens. So stay tuned.
Yes, make sure to watch Monday's show or Tuesday's show. God bless you guys. Please watch Ken Peters' End Time Prophecy. It's eerily similar to what's going on today. Oh, man, Natasha French. Hey, thank you, and nice to see you again, Natasha. Love to see you. Stephen McMahon, how much would it cost to take a state, say Iowa, and separate it from the main grid and strengthen its grid? I don't think the cost would be the issue. It would be why they would do it. I don't know why. I don't know what the original issue with why Texas has its own grid, but yeah, it's not a bad idea. Most reliable and detailed news I know. I highly recommend your channel to everyone who listens. Kendra, I do appreciate that, and it's up to you guys to share this out. Yana Markova, thank you. Know about kindergarten. They say Russ shot it, but where's what created the hole and the windows standing? Please check it out. D love to hear your opinion. Love to hear your opinion. I think there's propaganda everywhere, so just be careful with everything, including we cover stuff on the fly. So if we cover it, we don't know if 2 days later they find out it's something. That's why we have to be very vigilant about trying to back up everything and then making sure to double check on stuff that we're covering. March Air Force Base was really busy today. Thank you again, Irish Rebel. And then CKOC says, my sister works in the Pentagon. She basically counts tanks and jeeps at the base as they are on the move. Okay, so one thing we know, we have seen footage from all over our country of tanks moving around. We have now seen gray tanks. That is, and it was verified. There was even a board in the background with the clock and the date on it from like a dentist office. You could clearly see in the video. Dex?
They just covered, this is crazy, they just covered tanks in the local Atlanta news because the tanks were rolling through here. It was such a big deal that the newspaper had to cover it, and they had to say, yeah, we don't know where they're going, we don't know who they're for. Obviously they're going to be for the Army or the National Guard, we're not sure, but there's a whole bunch of them moving right through the city.
One of our family friends said that their son is in the military. They're military. Their son's military. They said that they are trying to install and reactivate and recommission all of our air raid sirens on the West and East Coast. Now, the Midwest has tons of air raid sirens. You have a lot of, or very similar, because of the tornadoes and the storms. Right now, they're trying to activate and install new ones, and I don't think you'll hear about that. So what the hell is going on with that? And I think they have the money hidden in under some sort of other affair, like it's part of like natural disaster relief something fund, and they're doing it through that. Why all of a sudden we need them? We decommissioned so many after so many years of no problems, but why would you decommission or you would at least keep it or something? It doesn't cost that much to clean it, or I guess it's because of the look of it. Some of them were removed around here because they scared people that it would. In fact, one of the theories behind this, and this is what the official answer was, like, if we keep air raid sirens, it says that we are still scared of it, or that it would look bad to Russia or something during the Cold War. So they said, we're so not worried about it, and we're so putting this peaceful thing out there that we're going to get rid of them because we don't need them, right? We're good. And then Blinken says Putin has his sights on countries beyond Ukraine. Look at this. So they laid out the whole plan, supposedly, right? And everything that they said they knew came out, right? What is the power play here? Now they're saying that Putin has his sights on countries beyond Ukraine. And everyone is going and jumping in on the same thing. General Keane and all of these others. Now we have actual Antony Blinken, saying that they are now planning on taking more than Ukraine. That would be WW3. Once they go,
they're NATO.
Yeah, that's that. Boom, we're done, son. That's the beginning of WW3. Why would they want to get us in WW3? I don't know. What do you think the motivation would be? Is Russia and China really in charge of everything that's going on? We don't know. Who knows? When President B addressed the nation today, he said that Putin wants a new Soviet Union. Is there intelligence to suggest that President Putin will advance beyond Ukraine? It says O'Donnell asked Blinken in an interview on Thursday. It says, you don't need intelligence to tell you that that's exactly what President Putin wants, the top U.S. diplomat said. He said he's made clear that he would like to reconstitute the Soviet Empire. Short of that, he'd like to reassert a sphere of influence around neighboring countries that were once part of the Soviet bloc. And short of that, he would like to make sure that all of these countries are somehow neutral. But Putin would face intense resistance from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in doing so, he said. He says, quote, now when it comes to the threat beyond Ukraine's borders, there's something very powerful standing in its way, Blinken added. That's Article 5 of NATO. An attack on one is an attack on all. It's exactly why we've been reinforcing NATO's eastern flank. So they're saying that the reason why they're uploading is because they think that they're going right past Ukraine. They're going to take Ukraine in a few days and then keep going. What mainstream and what the narrative is of the U.S. government is that they're going past Ukraine and they're going to keep going. And so far, their plans have been right. Who knows if they're in on those plans? Maybe they're telling us straight up, like, hey, this is what's about to go down.
And Adam, I have a couple of articles that have come out since we started the show, or I just discovered during the show. So I put them in screener if you want to grab those.
Wow.
One of them, particularly with China and NK, and this quote unquote new situation. I think when you read how this reads, it's going to make you ask a lot of questions like, what the heck is going on?
We have a new situation with China and North Korea. So this is China vows cooperation with NK under new situation. Are you getting the heebie-jeebies yet? Because I am. NK, officially known as the DPRK, carried out an unprecedented 7 weapons tests in January, including its most powerful missile since 2017, with negotiations with the United States at a standstill. It paused testing during the Beijing Winter Olympics, with analysts saying that the decision could have been made out of deference to China. It says Beijing is Pyongyang's most important ally and economic benefactor, their relationship forged in the bloodshed of the Korean War of the 1950s. In this message of the NK leader Kim Jong-un, Xi said that Beijing was ready to, quote, develop the China-DPRK relations of friendship and cooperation under, quote, the new situation, the official Korean Central News Agency reported. KCNA did not further elaborate on the new situation entailed. Okay, what the hell is the new situation? We're not talking about Pauly D here.
They slipping up on what's coming with Taiwan.
Yeah, that is. People, wake up! Something's going down right in front of us.
And time check, it's 5 left.
Cloud Pharrell, thank you so much. Titus Frost, what's going on? Most important threat to USA is the Great Reset and the Belt and Road Initiative, Israel, Russia, China allied. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Titus. I've never met you, so thank you so much. Appreciate that, man. And then I have, of course, heard many things. Thank you so much for supporting. I appreciate that. Let's see here. All of the rest of the news is over on marfooglenews.com. It's also everything that we also had is right there on marfooglenews.com, and on Marfoogle News we did a short basically combining all of this, including the Ministry of Health documents that say something's about to go down. Again, thank you, man. That means a lot. Cloud Pharrell, neighbor major Air Force said China taking Taiwan. I was just saying the other day that, like I just said yesterday, I believe, all of the truther community is so torn apart. Nobody will work with anybody. Everybody is just a total jerk to everybody. You have never done anything wrong, so I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. I appreciate everybody. Dex,
real quick, just a reminder, if you want to win, get a chance to win, head over to marfooglenews.com or click on the description in YouTube and click the show notes. You'll find the rest of the news, everything that we already covered on our news short we did earlier, which make sure you go watch that and share it, as well as all the other stories we can't get to because they're either too hot for TV or it's under that web-only content. So make sure you go to the website, click on the thumbnail for the show, or on YouTube, just open that description and click on show notes. There's a lot more going on and a lot more information for you than we can possibly cover in a short amount of time.
And I just want to point this out. This is another kind of hero thing that they showed. I do believe that this could be true. An 80-year-old showed up to the is this on the Ukrainian side, right?
Correct.
Who showed up to join the army carrying with him a small case with 2 T-shirts, a pair of extra pants, a toothbrush, and a few sandwiches for lunch. He said he was doing this for his grandkids. He said he would, man, if this is like full on what they say it is, and if it was real, we are witnessing absolute history. Like this is what we all thought was going to happen. I guess now that it's here, everybody really doesn't want it to be true, and I hope you guys are right. Thanks, everybody. Make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com. You can also go to marfooglenews.com/prep if you want to prep. Thank you, guys. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. What sometimes wrong. There it is. Now you can just hear my inner thoughts. Inner thoughts. Because apparently my soundboard died. I don't like Starbucks. Is the end of the world going to bring more coffee. Oh, that sucks. The song I made right before the show is deleted. That really sucks.